reporters, pride and dignity, stop the New World Order. Welcome to Hapanwo TV. I hope you're doing well. Right, well, this is a video about something which has happened, which is directly related to the two other videos I've made recently. The one about PewTube going down and the one about Alex Jones being banned. And this is about Stefan Molyneux. Now, this is really weird because, you know, I'm going to repeat a lot of the points I made in the last two videos. And some of you might think, oh no, you've already said that, Ben. I know I've already said it, but the fact of the matter is, I want to keep saying this. It's important that we keep saying the same thing in a situation where the same thing keeps happening all the time. To different people, it's so close to each other in terms of time frame. Because this needs to be documented. It needs to be documented over and over again, so that people can see it happening and maybe do something about it. What's happened is that Stefan Molyneux was almost banned. He was almost banned from YouTube. Now, I thought something was a bit weird because he wasn't uploading, because normally he puts all his radio shows on YouTube, and he hadn't put his radio shows on YouTube, and we found out exactly what happened was, I mean, he just made a video explaining all this. He had two strikes. He had two community guideline strikes on his account. Now, this is, as he says, this was completely out of the blue. For 12 years, he's had his YouTube channel, and he's never once had any community guideline strikes. And so now suddenly he gets two in a row. And of course, this is really worrying because, as you know from YouTube's rules, if you get 3 strikes, you're out. 3 strikes, your account is deleted. It's instantly deleted. And this happened just a week after Alex Jones was deleted, was banned from YouTube, banned from Facebook, banned from Twitter, banned from almost every social media, Reddit, daily, all of them, LinkedIn, all of them. He was taken down from the lot in one go within a few hours, as I explained on the video. I'll put a link in the description box of that video. This happened just a week later that Stefan Molyneux gets attacked like this. And then, this was just after he came back from his tour of Australia. Now, he went on a tour of Australia and New Zealand, Australia and New Zealand, where he spent a couple of weeks going around to various venues with Lauren Southern, who's another Canadian. She's a young lady who is very similar to Stefan in many ways. She's like a kind of conservative libertarian type, or I don't know if that's the right word to use. I don't know if Stefan wants to be called that. He just said he put a show up the other day saying, why I'm not a conservative. Okay, all right. Well, whatever you call it, a kind of free speech advocate, person like that. Lauren Southern, I think I mentioned Lauren Southern on the previous video because she's made a video about the genocide in South Africa. So it's that Lauren Southern, and they showed her film at a couple of places, I think. Now, this was extraordinarily controversial. I mean, there's some TV spots where they are basically branded as some kind of lunatic, evil Nazi monsters. And there's Antifa turn up to all their venues and attack them. They have to have security guards. The mayor of one of the cities in New Zealand, when they're going to speak, bans them from the city. The venue, which they've already paid for, cancels at the last minute. All kinds of things like that. They end up making a massive financial loss, and everyone on the media is gloating about it. And the media hit pieces are absolutely horrible, actually, what they say about him. Like they have, like, talking about the evil, racist, misogynist monster Stefan Molyneux, and they say he's coming to New Zealand now, and you have like a picture of him talking, but the sound is muted, so you can't hear his words. It's a typical mainstream media hatchet job, that, isn't it? And this is getting really worrying because this, what it's not getting worrying, is worrying. But I found out the other day that Facebook shares plummeted. They absolutely plummeted. And so if you have shares in Facebook, for God's sake, get rid of them, because they're going to be worth nothing in a few years. And this was a great revelation, because even in the mainstream, I was watching this finance program all about it. Even in the mainstream, they're saying that there's a connection between the demolition of Facebook's share value on the stock market and the censorship agenda there, the attack against free speech. Now this puts another angle on the, oh, they're private companies, they can do whatever they like line, doesn't it? Because if they're private companies and they can do whatever they like, then if anyone who has a private company doesn't want to commit business suicide, the first thing they do is they try not to ruin their business, and they try to do things to make themselves profitable, not to ruin their business. And that's their highest priority. Their highest priority is their own well-being, their own financial well-being. But that doesn't count anymore in terms of Facebook, and no doubt the same goes for the other social media companies. They have had a political agenda imposed on them, that is censorship of certain opinions and certain people, and they prioritise that above their own success. So they are willing to sacrifice themselves, to destroy their own business. Mark Zuckerberg is willing to wipe out every single penny that he has, all the 50 what's that guy worth? 4.8 billion? He's willing to throw that all away. Because someone has told him to. Somebody has told him to, who's not a part of his business. Someone who obviously is a part of some kind of state operator. It's some kind of state operator that's doing this. And I think that the same goes for the others. I mean, as Michael Rumidi used to say, just one more island in the Gulag archipelago of social media. Yeah, that's right. So that is very revealing. That is revealing. It means that this is now so important that these private companies that can do whatever they like are being dictated to. They're being told to commit a kamikaze attack. It's a suicide mission on their part. They are carrying out a suicide mission on behalf of this agenda that's been imposed on them. Now, am I the only person who thinks that's a little bit weird, a little bit suspicious? What do you think, Russell? What do you reckon? Yeah, he nodded his head, you see. So, this is really getting very strange. Now, this is odd. Now, Stefan Molyneux, of course, I'll put a link in the description box to my most recent reply video of Stefan Molyneux. Let me just change the lighting slightly. There we go. There we are. Is that better? That's slightly better, isn't it? Yeah, Stefan Molyneux, you know if you're a regular viewer, because I've done loads of reply videos to him, and my most recent one was about dolphins, and I put a link in the description box of that. But there's links in that video to all my other reply videos to Molyneux, and one thing you'll notice about him is I disagree with him on so much. And I mean, I make these videos basically because I disagree with him. I don't make reply videos to say I agree with him. But this is an exception. This is a video. It's not a reply video to Stefan Molyneux, but it is a video about Stefan Molyneux in which I am completely 100% behind him. It was really weird for poor Stefan, because he got back from Australia and New Zealand, which I'm sure he's very relieved too, because he'd been attacked, and the people coming to see his shows have been attacked. He'd been banned. He'd been called every name under the sun in the media. He'd been called a white supremacist and a racist and an evil sort of anti-Semitic Jew boiler and all kinds of things. God knows, anything you can imagine he was called. People were invading his talks, and they were throwing themselves at the stage. He gets back and he has to go to the doctors because Stefan had cancer 5 years ago, and he gets the all clear. Now he's 5 years cancer free. Is a real milestone if you're in remission from cancer, because it makes it far less likely that it'll recur. Far less likely. And then he logs into his Google account and he tries to get onto YouTube. He can't open his YouTube account. You've received a community guideline strike for hate speech, something like that. So what happened was he had one strike, and then he thought, oh, that's odd. He put in the usual contestant thing. He just left it there, and then he gets a second one the following day, and of course that puts you in. That's really serious, because now I've been through this myself. I know how awful it is. You have to basically, you have to fill out a form. Firstly, they treat you like you're a criminal. They assume you're guilty, That's the first thing. Anytime you get a community guideline strike, you're guilty. That YouTube immediately treat you as a guilty person. Now, this could be many things. I mean, it could be a malicious. It's not usually so much like malicious flags now, because that doesn't work anymore. Because YouTube now they just now put the video, they just restrict it, and they just restrict the videos now, which is what happened to me over some of the film reviews I did, because I put the trailers in. And so they just restrict them, so you don't tend to get the flagging attacks anymore. Well, you do sometimes with some people. You can still get the flagging attacks, but though it's very much automated now. It's usually just an automated system that does it, and it's a real nightmare. I mean, look, if you go back to, for example, let me go back to this when this happened to me. I'll tell you. Well, I'll reiterate the story of when this happened to me, or if you're a regular viewer, you'll know about it. 2015, my Colonel Holt video. Yeah. That was immediately somebody who's quite happy to take part in that video, and I was actually asked by the organiser of this event with Colonel Holt to actually film it. Then suddenly one of the people decides, even though he agreed in the first place, that I'm breaching his copyright. So he flags the video. The video is removed, and I have to go. I'm told, as I said, the first thing you hear is they say, "Right then, you guilty bastard, what are we going to do with you?" That's how YouTube treat you the moment these flags happen. And then you have to go through this tedious thing where you're shown these videos and they say, "Can you see the violation in this video?" And you have to spot the violation, and you're treated like a naughty schoolboy. "Can you spot the violation in this video? You need to learn how to do this so you don't make this mistake again." And you have another little... It's almost like one of these stupid childish IQ tests they used to make you go through at school. And finally, when you've gone through this, you can log into your account. But there's all kinds of restrictions like, oh, you can't upload a video longer than 10 minutes. You can't live stream. You can't do this. And you have this big red banner across the top of your channel page the whole time. And the only thing you can do about this is you put in a counterclaim. So you just say, I'm disputing this flag, or I'm disputing this strike. Please could you process this? And you have to fill out your address, you have to fill out all your forms. So if this is a personal strike, so if it's actually someone who's flagged you, you essentially have to dox yourself to them. And you then put in your reasons why you think that strike is false. Then YouTube have to process this complaint, and Stefan says, he puts it very well here. He says it's like trying to talk to a 2,000-year-old Egyptian pharaoh who's been dead for all that time. This happened to Sargon of Akkad, and he said, "Oh, they can." It's like talking to. It's like talking to. It's like talking to God, he said. And seeing as Sargon's an atheist, that's especially bad. And it's really, really weird, because what happened with his channel, right? First of all, when he had his second strike, he had a number of videos put into limited state. So these were particular videos which were of concern, which is why the second strike took place. And the limited state means you can't comment, you can't monetize, it doesn't appear in searches, only subscribers can see it, etc., etc., etc. It means it gets hardly any views. It's what's one YouTuber called the Naughty Corner. And these videos, one of the videos that was of concern. The first strike was about a video which was called "The Death of White Males," where Stefan did a couple of years ago, where he talks about basically, as the title says, that white men in Western countries are dying. Our death rate has increased enormously through various things such as drug addiction, through depression, and various kinds of addictions caused by that, through poverty, the breakdown of industry and things like that, and suicide. Suicide rates among white men have doubled in the last 20 years. Doubled! And that apparently breaches YouTube's community guidelines. That actually triggers people. So they strike his account. And this, are we to believe that this was done coincidentally just after his tour of Australia, this very controversial tour of Australia and New Zealand he did? And would you believe it's a coincidence this happened just 1 week after Alex Jones gets banned? No way. This is coordinated. This is a coordinated attack. They want to take down as many channels, alternative channels, as they can. And I think it's got a lot to do with the midterm elections, as I said last time, in the United States. It's a crucial time for the Trump administration in the United States. The midterm elections will decide whether or not, for the rest of his term, Trump can have the Congress on his side. Which is essential for doing what he wants to do. Just get the Senate and the House of Representatives on his side. Britain has a different system. We don't have a separate president. We just have our head of government. We don't have our head of state as the Queen. Head of government is whoever happens to be leading the party, the leading party. So that's what happened. So that this is why I think they're doing it. Now the second video, Stefan was the second strike was about, was where he interviewed Katie Hopkins. Now Katie Hopkins is somebody I didn't used to like. In fact, I wrote an article saying how awful she was a couple of years ago. But that was when she was playing she was kind of playing an act. She was acting a role, I think, in the media, which is where she was acting sort of the snobbish woman. This is where she said she wouldn't let her children play with a kid called Chardonnay or something like that. And I thought that was very silly. I thought I was very stuck up and narrow-minded of her, and I said so. But since then, Katie Hopkins has changed. I think she's become more like the person who she probably really is. And she's concerned about the way the country's going. Now, I'm concerned about it too. I disagree with her over the cause. She goes along pretty much with Stefan, and she says it's immigration per se, and it's things like that. Now, I think these things are tools being used by somebody else, but she sees this as the problem. She sees it almost as I think, an act of weakness on the part of the government, rather than an act of deliberate malice. And I think that's where she makes a mistake. So that was what she said. And she just made a very, very hard video about acid attacks, which was very good, actually, saying how awful they were, things like that. So I don't think she's a bad person. She was at that Day for Freedom I was talking about earlier. She went to that. So this is the situation Stefan was in. He'd had these 2 strikes on his account. 12 years he had his YouTube channel. No problem at all. Suddenly he's getting 2 strikes, and he's just one strike away from losing the channel. If you lose the channel, it's like I said, your channel gets deleted. You can appeal against it. But as I said, I've talked about the appeal process. I should say more about the appeal process, because I had to appeal this false flag that was put on my account. You can appeal them, you see. You can do it, but you have to accept full legal responsibility. And to do that, you have to you give all your personal details to them. You have to essentially publicise your personal details, and you have to basically encourage. If it's a personal flag, you have to get them to sue you, or you have to basically say to YouTube you're taking full legal responsibility. And that, you may think that's not a problem. If you're in the right, you shouldn't have a problem doing that. And I didn't have a problem doing that. The problem is the time it takes. In the case of my particular incident with the Colonel Holt video, it took 6 weeks. It took 6 whole weeks for them, and then they didn't even tell me that they'd actually lifted the strike from my account. Someone else told me, oh Ben, we can see this video now. So the Colonel Holt video was restored, the one that had been deleted. It was put back, and someone just mentioned that they could see it, and I thought, oh good. So I tried uploading a video more than 10 minutes long, and it worked. YouTube didn't tell me. They just did it without telling me, and it took that long because basically, well, it has to be dealt with by a person, and these things take time, and they've got short staff, and of course it's deliberate. They want to put people in situations like this, stressful situations where you drive you crazy waiting. They want that. They want to do that to content creators. As I said in the last video, they want to make life uncomfortable for independent, politically incorrect content creators. Now, Stefan took to Twitter, which is good. He did. I've got some notes here. Yeah, he took to Twitter and he just asked everyone to write to YouTube, asking them to lift the strikes from his account, and they did. And we did. I did that. A lot of other people did that. And Stefan did have his account restored. He had the 2 strikes removed, which would have probably would have happened anyway, but it would have taken like 6 weeks to 2 months to do. And for that time, he wouldn't have been able to use his YouTube account properly. But luckily, he had the following. He had people who were on his Twitter page who would write to YouTube. This basically prioritised his particular case, and he's lucky he can do that. And I don't mean I don't say he's lucky he can do that in a resentful way. I mean, he's lucky he can do that. I can't because I'm just a small YouTuber. No, I'm not. I don't mean it like that. I'm glad he's lucky. I'm glad he's earned it. He deserves that luck, doesn't he, Russell? Yeah. So I'm glad that he was in a position to do this, and I'm glad we were in a position to help him. I was one of the people actually who tweeted YouTube, and I said, "Look, you motherfuckers, lift that damn can't you see this is a false community guideline strike? Get it off there now." I mean, it's obviously done. It was something done with an automated system, quite clearly, for it to have selected those 2 videos. But of course, it's not. It's not. It must have been something dirty behind the scenes. Someone fiddled it as a way to attack him. And so he did. Now he's done a video to explain what happened. It's just a short video, and he then promises he's not going to water down his message just because of this. And I mean, this is what he suspects this whole thing was about. It was like a shot across his bows, as he puts it, warning him to self-censor. So there's certain subjects he needs to drop. He needs to tone it down here, tone it down there, become a bit more compliant. And he says, "I will not do that." I think, good for you, Stefan. Well done. He says he believes in the Socratic method, and Socrates was the original Greek philosopher who taught Plato, and Plato taught Aristotle, etc. And Socrates was the guy who was poisoned, and he was sentenced to death, and he was offered the chance to drink poison himself, and he took it. And but Socrates was like Stefan. I think sees himself a bit like Socrates, because Socrates lived a long time ago. I think in the 4th century BC. Greece at that time was a thriving centre of civilization, and they had a forum which was almost like a secret society of philosophers, and they used to sit around navel gazing in private with each other. But Socrates would go out and talk to ordinary people in the street. He'd go to the market. He'd just stop people and ask them questions in the middle of the street and things like that. He wanted to deal with the ordinary people, and this is what Stefan wants to do. I don't like the word ordinary people, but you know what I mean. He doesn't want to be an ivory tower type chap. He wants to do things his way and deal with people on a one-to-one basis. And then what he said at the end of the video is one which I know a lot of you will disagree with me on. I mean, which I have an opinion on, which I know a lot of you will disagree with me on, especially Slaxer. I know Slaxer, I do disagree with you on this. Molyneux asked for donations to help him keep the channel going. Now, I have donated to him. I've said this in previous videos. I've sent him. I can't send him much, as I'll be saying in a future video. I can't. There's a limit on how much I can fund other people. I have to fund myself. I have to fund my own life. I have to take care of my family. I've got a child. Well, she's grown up. I've got a daughter. But I do send him a few quid when I can. And I know some of you will disagree with this, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything immoral about asking people for voluntary contributions. If you listen to Hapanmo Radio, you'll listen. I ask people for voluntary contributions every week. Not a king's ransom, just enough to keep the show going. Because of course with Hapanmo Radio, it's not like YouTube. That's the platform I use. I have to pay for. Now, people think then the cry goes out, money grabber, money grabber. Well, okay, well, if you go to Costa and you buy a cup of coffee and they say, that'll be £1.50 please, what are you going to say to them? Money grabber? No, you're paying for your coffee. In a sense, that's kind of like what Stefan does. And the only difference is Stefan doesn't force people. He asks people. In Costa, if you try to take a coffee and not pay for it, they're going to call the police. Stefan doesn't do that. So I think you should give him a break. I think this is something I'm going to disagree with you, a lot of you on, but I think he is actually doing nothing wrong. But the question now is, who's next? We could have sweepstake, couldn't we? I've got a feeling it's going to... probably Paul Joseph Watson's own channel will probably go down at some point. Probably Gavin McGuinness may well. Milo, I don't know about Milo. Milo sort of... Yeah, probably Milo's in danger. And of course, Dr. Jordan Peterson is another one who'll be under threat. And of course, this is going to move. I mean, of course, you know, this is just the subjects that Molyneux covers, and the other names I just mentioned cover, is only just one small part of what I do. But I'm of course centred in another area, which is the UFO paranormal conspiracy theory world. But as I've said in a previous video, YouTube are targeting us too. They've mentioned in their list of things which violate community guidelines, opinions which contradict the scientific consensus. And as I said, the scientific consensus is UFOs are just weather balloons, ghosts are all in the head, conspiracy theories are just loony stuff which no one believes in, 9/11 was done by 19 hijackers, etc, 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 all the things I talk about. Which means they're going to get round to us as well. You may disagree with Molyneux, you may disagree with a lot of people who've been targeted for deletion, you may disagree with Alex Jones. I do as well. I mean, for goodness, the reply videos I make to Stefan Molyneux I make primarily because I disagree with him so much. But we have to please stand up for people we disagree with. And it's really sad. I've made a video called "Is There Any Hope?" and I'm going to hark back to that now. But I found out that Kev Baker has been attacked by lots of people. He's been called lots of names. He's written about it on social media, and I found that awful. And he's been called all kinds of things, and it has upset him. And it would upset anyone. And you just look. If you follow him on social media, you'll see that. But he has said a lot of stuff about QAnon, which a lot of people disagree with, and I think, I must admit, I'm probably one of them. I've looked into this whole QAnon thing, and I'll save that for another video, but I'm not as sure as Kev is that it's a fake. I think there's lots of videos explaining why Unirock and these people who've been saying it's a fake are wrong. And one of them challenged, a guy called Nemo V, he challenged Unirock or one of the others to a debate, and they never accepted, so that's worrying. But please leave Kev Baker alone. He's a good guy. You may disagree with him, so what? Just please leave him alone. And this is a sad thing, you see, because when a channel like mine, I was going to say if, but it is when YouTube get round to deleting me, a lot of people are going to cheer, and a lot of them will be people who call themselves members of the Truth Movement. But they'll cheer my removal from YouTube. And they'll do it without realising that they'll be next. As Pastor Niemöller said, first they came for the Jews. I said nothing because I was not a Jew, and etc, etc, etc. Then they came for me, and there's no one left to speak out for me. That's the lesson here. We've got to stop the infighting, and then we've got to do something about preventing this from happening. Now, Dave Cullen, Computing Forever, has done a couple of good videos about this, talking about old tech, talking about the possibility of an Internet Bill of Rights, where we can actually have non-persecution on the internet as a list of human rights, along with access to food and water. Because as Sargon of Akkad said, where's this going to end? Are we going to be denied bank accounts? Are we going to deny the ability to buy food from supermarkets? What's going to happen? Where's this going to end? I just think Dave Cullen, Computing Forever, his most recent video is actually pretty good. It's called The White Pill, Why I'm Optimistic, or something like that. And he says that we just got to simply reach a critical mass on alternative free speech equivalent websites. And I'm already on those websites. I'm already on all the alternative social media platforms. Gab.ai, minds.com, on Stellar. Look in the link in the script. Look, not in the description box. I've got a list of them all at the end, in the end credits, of all the different social media accounts I'm on. The mainstream ones, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, of course on YouTube. But when they kick me out, I'm on those others as well. Time could come when you'll simply have to get used to watching me on those other platforms. So what you can do, if you want to help me, and this is as much to help yourself as it is to help me, or help any content creator that you value, who you know is at risk of being showed, as they call it, being deleted, being censored. If you know of any content creator like that, you can help them out. Like, what to do is, firstly, go to their alt media accounts and subscribe. The most important one is BitChute, and please, if you can, subscribe to me on BitChute. Getting a BitChute account is very easy. You just simply click sign up, and you put your email in, password. That's it. It's like signing up for. It's easier than signing up for a Google account. And you can subscribe to me on BitChute. It's Ben the JR Porter, same name. There's links everywhere to it on the Panway TV blog, etc. So subscribe to me on BitChute. Also, if you can, if you've got room, download my videos. Now, I've got over 1,100 videos now, and of course I have them backed up, as many as I can, especially the ones I consider sensitive and vulnerable to this sort of thing. But I don't have them all, and the reason is because I don't think there's a hard drive I can get that's big enough for that, because of course 1,100 videos is a lot, and some of them are very long. So if you can download my videos, that would be very useful, and you can feel free to mirror them like Bold VASD did. If you want to mirror them, that's fine. If you download them, that's very helpful actually. Yeah. Download my videos. Especially if you know me, and you can then get in touch with me if for any reason my channel is just completely wiped out permanently and I can't get back on. Because I'd like to. I have, like I say, the ones I've backed up, I will upload to other platforms. I always upload new ones now, but it's a huge task to upload all of them, and it's possible that I might not be able to get all of them off my doomed YouTube channel before it's deleted. In which case, I'll only be able to upload the ones I've backed up. But there could be some really, really good ones which I wanted to keep and couldn't. But if you've downloaded them, especially some of the older ones, I've got them up to 2013. I think it's 2013 or 2014. I've got all the ones up to 2013. If you can download the ones before then, that'd be really useful. And then if my YouTube videos, just get in touch and you can share them to me and I'll upload them. But as Dave said, we can win this. Dave Cullen is very optimistic about this. He says that if they want to kick us out, that's fine. They're ruining their business, as I just explained. They're willing to sacrifice their own business. They're going to go down the toilet. Well, they're just going to be bought up by some corporate clone, and you'll have YouTube TV. And as I said, it'll all be mainstream crap and cat videos. But there'll be the internet. There'll be the second internet, the internet 2. There'll be the dark web. There'll be the blockchain-based platforms, and there'll be the peer-to-peer based platforms like BitChute, like Steemit, like gab.ai. BitChute is the most important, like I said, because it's a kind of it's an alternative YouTube basically. It's video sharing. Gab.ai is like an alternative Twitter, although it has now a video uploading function too. Minds.com is a kind of alternative Facebook stroke YouTube. And there's Steemit, Steemit is a new one, and it's still, I think, in beta, but it's looking promising. That is a peer-to-peer blockchain-based platform, which is really, really good. I'm on there. I haven't used it yet, but I think I'm going to start using it pretty soon. And of course, there's OnStellar. OnStellar is specifically for the UFO paranormal conspiracy theory community. Set up by Steve Mehrer, a good friend of mine, and the people at what are they called? Not Gaia TV. yeah, they did Gaia TV. Yeah, people like that. Yeah, they set that up. So go over there. Go to On Stella as well. See me over there. And I'm not going to go away. But if for any reason I vanish from YouTube, you know where to find me. So all I can say is I just hope Stefan Molyneux doesn't get any more aggravation. He really doesn't deserve this. He's not all these nasty things that people have called him. He's actually one of the most harmless people imaginable. You disagree with him, fine. Just bloody disagree with him and shut up. There's nothing wrong with disagreement. It's when you try and take people who disagree and say, well, I want to now silence those people I disagree with. I want to silence their opinions. I don't want to just refute them. I just want to silence them. Because they're evil. That is when the line is crossed. And that is, I think, where we're going to have to cross back over again. So, I'd like to say this is the last banning video I'm going to be making, but I don't think it will be. I'll probably be making another of these videos about someone else quite soon. In the meantime, I will be covering other subjects, don't worry. I'm not going to become obsessed with this. So, thank you for watching Panwo TV yet again. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order.